All right, let's dive into a topic that's on every leader's mind these days: AI governance. You hear the term thrown around all the time, but what does it actually look like in the real world? Let's break it down.
Okay, first things first, we've got to get one thing straight. For pretty much any serious organization out there, AI isn't some side experiment anymore. Yep, it's out of the lab, it's operational. Right now, as we speak, it's in the driver's seat. For real bottom line decisions, we're talking pricing, approvals, deciding where to put resources.
And that brings us to the big question, doesn't it? If AI is so central to how we do business, why is getting a handle on it, governing it, so incredibly hard for so many smart people?
Well, that difficulty creates something we can call the governance gap, and it's usually rooted in a pretty big misunderstanding. The problem isn't that the tech is scary or dangerous. The real challenge is figuring out how to weave it into our businesses with, confidence and control. The truth is, the whole conversation around governments just exploded the very second AI started touching decisions that actually matter. When an algorithm has a say in who gets a loan or what price a customer sees, suddenly leaders need answers. They need clarity, they need control, and they need to feel confident. And that's what governance is for.
Okay, so to really get what governance is, we first have to blow up a few myths about what it is not. And honestly, this is where a ton of AI projects just hit a wall, all because of these common and kind of dangerous misunderstandings.
First up, and this is a big one, governance is not just another word for compliance. Yes, of course you have to follow the law. That's the bare minimum, the absolute floor. But that doesn't tell you how your AI should behave in the messy, dynamic, real world. And it's also not some fancy ethics statement you print out and hang on the wall. Look, principles are great, but if they don't have teeth, if they don't have enforcement, they don't actually change anything. What's missing is the how. How do you turn those nice ideas into hard and fast rules for your AI?
Oh, and this one trips up so many people. Governance is not a checklist you run through after the thing is already live. When you try to bolt on controls at the very end, it always feels like you're getting in the way. It creates friction, and suddenly governance is seen as the enemy of speed, which is the exact opposite of what you want.
And finally, and you really need to hear this, it is not just IT's problem to fix. Just think about it for a second. The business units own the outcomes. If an AI is messing with pricing, then sales and marketing own that outcome. So guess what? They have to own the governance too. See, all these myths, they're so damaging because they force leaders into this completely false choice. Well, we can either move fast and break things, or we can be careful and govern properly. And that's a recipe for disaster. It's how risk builds up silently, trust slowly disappears, and eventually something snaps.
Okay, so we've busted the myths. Now let's build this thing back up from scratch. What is AI governance, really? Let's put it in plain English. Here you go. At its heart, AI governance is just a system for making sure of three simple things: that the AI stays within clear boundaries, that a human is always accountable for what happens, and that you can explain and fix any decisions it makes. It's not about controlling the tech, it's about controlling how your organization uses the tech to make decisions.
So, in the real world, good governance is really just about answering 4 basic questions that every leader is already being asked. First one, what is this AI allowed to do? And just as important, what is it absolutely positively not allowed to do? It's all about setting clear guardrails. Number 2, who's on the hook when something happens? AI doesn't get rid of accountability. Nope, it actually shines a huge spotlight on it. Good governance makes it crystal clear who owns the outcome, so there's no finger pointing later. Third, how do we know if things are starting to go off the rails? Think of it like a smoke detector for your AI. You need those early warnings, those tripwires, so you can jump in and fix things before any real damage gets done.
And last but not least, how do we fix a problem without having to hit the big red emergency stop button on everything? Good governance gives you a way to tweak and adjust on the fly, to learn and correct course without killing all your momentum.
Okay, so this brings us to the single biggest mistake that I see even the smartest leaders make. Let's call it the static governance trap. This is where even the best intentions can completely fall apart. Here it is. The number one mistake is treating governance like it's static. Like you can just write a policy, stick it in a binder on a shelf, and you're done. But the AI isn't static, right? It learns, the data changes, the world changes.
A static policy becomes useless almost overnight. So what do we do instead? We need a whole new way of thinking. We need to think about scaling with autonomy. This just means your governance can't be a static document. It has to be a living, breathing capability that grows and adapts right alongside the AI you're trying to guide. Just think about the journey an AI system takes. It might start out by simply assisting a person. Then, maybe it graduates to recommending actions. Later, you trust it to execute tasks on its own. And eventually, it might even adapt its own behavior. The level of risk and the kind of governance you need changes at every single one of those steps. And this completely changes the kind of questions you should be asking. The old, unhelpful question was just a simple yes or no. Are we allowed to build this system? The new, much smarter questions are, okay, what level of freedom is appropriate for this system right now? And what evidence do we need to see before we're comfortable giving it more? And when you start asking those questions, everything changes. Governance stops being the brakes that slow you down. It becomes the steering wheel and the guardrails. It's the very thing that makes safe, reliable, and, most importantly, sustained progress even possible. So I want to leave you with this one final thought because it really wraps everything up. In the end, AI doesn't scale in your organization just because the technology is powerful. No, it scales because it's made governable. And that confidence, that clarity and accountability, that is what truly unlocks its potential.